So eating meat will kill you and give you heart disease and cause cancer, right? Sorry to disappoint you, but that's wrong. Once again, it's BS, bad science. Meat has been unfairly vilified. Looking back at the scientific record, animals were first domesticated beginning with sheep and goats 10,000 years ago. And ever since then, humans have, until recently, consumed meat without developing heart disease, cancer, other sickness, or illnesses. We are engineered to eat meat as a species. The problem with meat, now follow me here, is not meat itself. It's the types of meat and the way we prepare and raise our meats. You see, the meat that is most commonly sold in the local supermarket or grocery store is not the same meat that our Paleolithic ancestors ate. It's not even the same meat that your grandparents or great-grandparents ate. The cows of today are not the cows of yesteryear. The majority of meat today is raised on what's known as factory farms. On these factory farms, they're confined and live in pens where they're packed in like sardines. To keep costs low, cattle on these factory farms are fed a corn, soy, and sheep diet of grains and what's known as byproduct feed, which the government approval says consists of things of chicken manure, chicken feathers, bubble gum and candy, even some sewage products, and aluminum foil. So how do you think that impacts your body and your health when you eat things that are literally eating a diet of crap? It's not good. You need to understand that it's not just about what you eat, it's about what you ate. It's not just the pro-inflammatory diet these animals consume. They're often filled with hormones and have both natural and synthetic versions of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone injected into them. This is used in most beef and cattle in all countries in the world in an effort to get as much yield as possible from the cow when it's butchered. Now, opponents to hormone use in meats point to studies showing these growth hormones are linked to everything from cancers to dementia to early onset puberty, increased incidence of twin birth, reproductive problems, and in addition to that, they're also known to cause developmental problems in children. So when they're raised in these confined spaces and they subsist on this horrible diet, this makes these animals more susceptible to disease and infection. And because of this, these factory farm animals are also fed large amounts of antibiotics. Nearly 80% of all antibiotics used in the United States are used primarily in cattle and poultry production. What happens when you eat animals filled with these antibiotics? Well, scientists tell us that it can lead to humans becoming antibiotic resistant, which occurs when bacteria develop the ability to defeat the drugs designed to kill them. When bacteria become resistant, antibiotics cannot fight them, and bacteria multiply. So if you choose to eat meat, which I highly advocate for, stay away from the factory farm meats and choose organic and grass-fed meats instead. You see, a grass-fed and organic raised meat, they're raised in the way they were throughout history prior to this relatively new advent of these commercial factory farms. Cattle were not genetically designed to subsist on these highly inflammatory soy, corn, grain-based crap diets. Throughout history, cattle grazed on a diet of fibrous grasses, plants, shrubs, and it's their natural diet. And when they're raised organically without antibiotics and hormones and allowed to eat like they should while roaming outside as opposed to being confined in these pens, they produce a healthy cattle like our ancestors have eaten for those tens of thousands of years without the onset of disease and sickness. In fact, there are significant health benefits linked to eating organic and grass-fed meats. Grass-fed beef is known to be one of the most nutrient-dense proteins on earth. It has a remarkably high micronutrient profile compared to grain-fed beef. First, grass-fed beef contains more of the healthy omega-3 fats, unlike factory farm, which are much higher in the inflammatory omega-6 fats. It's also the richest source of an amazing fatty acid called CLA, conjugated linoleic acid. CLA has many known health benefits, including the regulation of fat or adipose tissue by the body. CLA assists in the use of body fat as a source of energy and prevents a decrease in the metabolic rate. So CLA is one of those things that plays a role in the prevention of heart disease, and by preventing the deposition of plaque and lipids in the arteries. This is a key factor in the development and prognosis of heart disease. CLA may also help prevent by acting as an antioxidant and by lowering blood pressure. Additionally, CLA has been shown to prevent cancer cell formation and progression, according to studies from Cornell University and the National Academy of Sciences. In just one 8-ounce grass-fed strip steak, you're going to receive 49 grams of protein, 45 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids, all these proteins and all these nutrients that you can see listed here are loaded in these grass-fed beef. You're not going to get those in your traditional, conventionally factory farm raised animals. So this is one of the main benefits of going with the grass-fed beef is, like I said, you can see all the nutrients, all the minerals they contain. It's just overwhelming. It's frankly phenomenal. It's an excellent source. And that's why I say that meat has been unfairly vilified in these years. Now, another reason to eat meat is because animal protein is the single best source of protein, and it's the only natural source of vitamin B12. Protein is a critical macronutrient, and it must be consumed daily because our bodies do not store protein in the same way they do store fat or carbohydrate. The daily recommended intake for protein is 0.8 grams per kilogram or 0.36 grams per pound of body weight. Getting enough protein becomes even more essential as we age to ensure we continue to build and maintain muscle mass and prevent sarcopenia, which is the age-related loss of muscle mass. Now, view the lesson on protein for more details about that specifically. But to put it simply, eating the right type of meat is both tasty and healthy. One of the biggest knocks against meat was its fat and cholesterol content. But again, we know that's BS, bad science. So much so, the USDA removed its recommended limits for dietary cholesterol and fat consumption in 2015. Why? Because the science simply does not back up the previous negatively associated health concerns with fat and cholesterol. But how we prepare our meats, does that matter? It sure as heck does. Here's why. When meats are cooked at a high temperature, meaning grilled, smoked, or fried, it creates carcinogens known as HCAs and PAHs. Carcinogens are substances that are capable of causing cancers, and in the most highest concentration of these carcinogens are actually found in the grill mark portions of the meat. The best way to prepare your meat is by roasting and stewing or baking it. What about processed meats? I love bacon and sausage. Can I eat it or will it kill me? Well, there is evidence of a link between processed meat and cancer, but is the risk really as high as you think? The average risk only increases by 1% of developing colon cancer if you were to eat processed meat every day of your life. However, with that said, you should still consume processed meats in limited quantity, and if you do decide to eat processed meat, choose those made from whole meats, not mishmashes like bologna. Avoid those made with fillers, additives, nitrates, glutens, and added sugars or sweeteners. Look for those that are on cure. However, with all that said, one drawback to organic and grass-fed meat is their cost. The cost of raising organic and grass-fed meats are much higher to the farmer to produce it, so it's going to cost us more at the store, and rightfully so, frankly. If one thing is true across the board, quality does cost. So, in summation, if you're going to eat meat, you want to choose organic, grass-fed beef, lamb, organic pasture-raised pork, as well as bison, elk, and venison. And in small quantities, organic, nitrate, and additive sugar-free bacon, sausage, ham, turkey, and salami. You want to stay away from conventional factory farmed beef, lamb, pork, and conventional processed meats like bacon, sausage, salami, or hot dogs unless it's 100% pork or beef and nitrate free.